Banks are failing and falling one after another. Central banks are acting in panic. Top banks are being acquired at throwaway prices, and global financial system is sounding alarms with banks are losing public confidence on near daily basis. So, is it the beginning of the Bank-o-calypse?
Signature Bank failed too. First Republic had to be bailed out by other banks. Overseas, Credit Suisse needed a big loan from the Swiss version of the Fed to stay afloat.
Credit Suisse story is a story of one of Switzerland's most important institutions, one of the most...
There is a cultural issue at the bank. Good financial result at any price.
It's a tale of scandal after scandal.
But at certain points during this has gotten quite hard to believe.
Switzerland is considered the center of global banking due to its banking stability and solvency, but perhaps not anymore. The ongoing banking crisis that began in the US state of California has hit the banking haven of world, Switzerland, a shock to global financial pundits. Switzerland's biggest bank, UBS, has agreed to take over Switzerland's second biggest and embattled bank, the Credit Suisse, in deal brokered by the Swiss government. The Swiss president has described the takeover of Credit Suisse by UBS as the merger of the century. UBS is paying just over $3 billion for Credit Suisse, about 60% less than the bank was worth when market closed on last Friday. The global headquarters of the UBS and Credit Suisse are just 300 yards apart in Zurich, but the bank's fortunes have been on very different path recently. Shares of UBS have climbed 15% in past 2 years, and it booked a profit of $7.6 billion in 2022. It had a stock market valuation of about $65 billion on Friday. On the other hand, Credit Suisse shares have lost 84% of their value over the same period. And last year it posted a loss of $7.9 billion. It was worth just $8 billion at the end of last week. And it's now sold for just $3 billion. Credit Suisse, a 167-year-old bank, has been the biggest name ensnared in the market turmoil unleashed by the recent collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and the Signature Bank, forcing the Credit Suisse to seek a $55 billion bailout from the Swiss National Bank. The UBS and Credit Suisse are both in the group of 30 global systematically important banks watched closely by regulators, and Credit Suisse failure can have ripples throughout the entire global financial system. Anything that happens to Credit Suisse would have been of a systematic nature because banks deal with each other, which is why the central bankers can't afford to let Credit Suisse fail. The Credit Suisse has been losing the trust of investors and customers for years. In 2022, it recorded its worst loss since the global financial crisis, but confidence collapsed last week after it acknowledged material weaknesses in its bookkeeping. And as the demise of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank spread fear about weaker institutions at a time when soaring interest rates have undermined, the value of some of the financial assets have collapsed. No central bank wants to risk a bank run on their commercial banks. The current Bank-o-calypse has pushed all the central banks into the crisis mode.